Welcome to episode 65 of Marathon Talk, powered by Abbott World Marathon Majors. On today's show, we have all the news from the weekend's Tokyo Marathon. It was an Ethiopian double, as Tadesse Tekele and Sutami Asefa Kebede claimed victory in the Japanese capital.
More than 2,500 athletes completed their six-star journey, and the Abbott World Marathon Majors welcomed their 20,000th member into that club. There was a sprinkle of stardust at this year's race too, as Harry Styles showed that when it comes to 26.2 miles, he only goes in one direction.
We've got an interview with presenter, author, campaigner, and now Tokyo Marathon finisher Adele Roberts about her time in Tokyo, more about her six-star journey, and finally, we'll hear from you, our listeners, about how they've been doing in the land of the rising sun. All this and more on Marathon Talk.
Hi, Martin. It has been a fun couple of weeks, an action-packed couple of weeks. And this past weekend, I was at a ski competition. You know, I've been going to a lot of these competitions for my daughter. And I was standing slopeside waiting for some of her teammates to come down. And a woman came up to me on skis and said, I absolutely love Marathon Talk. She was an original listener, one of your OG listeners, and continues to listen today. And she said, I hope you guys keep this podcast going. It's the highlight of her week when a new episode comes out. So it was really fun to be in Lake Tahoe, California on the sunny slopes. Yes, it was just it got me giddy. You know, it was like one of those unpredictable things where when we go to races, we might expect people to be listeners, but this weekend was super fun to have someone seek me out on the slopes and say that they love listening.
You say it was a surprise, Dina, but I'm glad Deirdre went to Tokyo because I'm pleased that she met you. No, I didn't really bribe anyone. I'm not Tokyo. I meant Lake Tahoe. Then I got my Tahoes and my Tokyos all confused.
It's a tongue twister. What have you been up to?
It's because I'm excited about coverage for Tokyo this week. Staying with all the T's, I did a tempo run this weekend. I haven't done anything with a little bit of intensity for a while. I've got a little loop. Runners listening will know this, right? You've got this little repertoire of loops that you do, and you know, I look at my Strava profile and I've done it like 137 times and things like that. And it's a loop I know, and it rolls a little bit. I do it all the time. It's about 6 miles, and I thought I'm going to try and run it at a really decent tempo pace. Did that, enjoyed it. I've got a niggly Achilles today. It's typical, isn't it?
Oh no. Is it on the same leg that your hamstring was bothering you? Because sometimes like your whole chain is you don't even remember.
Yeah, no, I'm just a chain of grumbles. Have you been running?
I have been quite consistently. It's been feeling really good. And I told you in the last episode that my cross-country skiing has made me a stronger runner. But because I've gotten stronger because of that cross training, it's actually making me more excited about running. So I've been putting in longer runs and quicker runs, interval sessions, some little hill repeats when I'm out there. So I've been having fun with my fitness. I'm back.
She's back.
I'm going to get my record back, darn it.
Yeah. She's back. She's back. Right. It was the 19th Tokyo Marathon, and it took place just last Sunday. Let's have a look at what happened. elite men's race. It was won by Tadesse Tekele of Ethiopia in a time of 2:03.23. He finished 28 seconds clear of compatriot Derede Jalata. It was his first win over the distance. He previously finished 7th in 2024 and 3rd in 2023, both in Berlin. The defending champion Benson Kipruto came 7th. It was hot, unseasonably hot in Tokyo. The temperature at one point reached 69 degrees Fahrenheit.
In the women's race, Satume Kebede defended her crown. She followed up her win from 2024 with another impressive performance to claim victory by 25 seconds over Kenyan Winfrida Mosetti. Kebede led from early on, and that was her third Abbott World Marathon Major podium finish in a row after her win last year in Tokyo and her second place finish in Chicago past October. In the wheelchair race, many of the leading names did not make the journey due to injury. It was defending champion Tomoki Suzuki who won the men's event. Defending Abbott World Marathon Major Series champion Catherine de Bruyne got her season off to a dreamy start, breaking the course record and beating rival Susanna Scaroni, who also broke the course record, but could only manage second place.
Hey, Paula Radcliffe was back racing, wasn't she? She was back racing. We interviewed her, I can't remember which episode, a few episodes ago, and she was telling us about her Abbott World Marathon Major 6-star quest, and Tokyo was on that list. It was episode 61, I think. Yes, Paula Radcliffe made a comeback. She collected her 5th Abbott World Marathon Majors star. She ran 2:57.22. That's rapid. Abbott World Marathon Majors is working on a 6-star stories feature with Paula. So they were there for her, with her for most of the weekend. And after the race, the heat, which was a factor for many runners, certainly Dina, many of the people we spoke to, noticed and reported on how the heat impacted upon their race. But for Paula, she said it wasn't a factor, but some of her old habits were a bit difficult to shake off. We quote her when she said afterwards, "I didn't notice the heat, to be honest, but I'm so bad at drinking. I was even looking at the elite bottles and wondering if I should just take one. Hang on a second. I couldn't drink out of the paper cups, so I stopped at 25k to get some fluids down me, but it was hard to get going again."
I was so impressed with Paula's performance. I sent her a congratulatory text after the race, and she says, "Oh my gosh, Dina, I could barely walk. I made it to that finish line in a fast time." She got competitive and aggressive. You can't take that out of a workhorse. But after she stopped, she said she needed to get in a wheelchair to get back to her hotel. So she suffered, but she'll be back for Boston. She's already assured me that she's recovering and will be ready to go.
But it's all in your approach, Dina, isn't it? See, you get to glide round New York with a proper old timer. We glide round in 5 hours, chatting and laughing, and you see the city through fresh marathoning eyes. You know what? As fantastic it is to go sub 3, when you've run 2:15, maybe sub 3, something starting with a 2 sort of feels like all the other races. Although, from what you've just said at the beginning of the show, I'm hoping I'm not censoring an over 50s kind of like race off anywhere. We're not going to rewind the clock, are we? And have like the greatest hits of Paula and Dina relived.
I mean, why not? Why? But you have to be a part of that. You're an over 50 also. I think we should all convene at a World Marathon Major and just have a proper showdown.
An over 50s showdown. I'd be decrepit. Right, let's move on. I'm looking forward to seeing Paula in Boston. Her 6-star stories film will be out later in the year.
It was a busy day at the 6-star tent with more than 2,500 athletes getting their 6-star medals. Statman Stu, he's an Abbott World Marathon Major guy with his fingers on the button when it comes to stats. There's nothing that Stu does not know. He sent us some really fun numbers. 2,489 first-timer medalists. 69 picked up their second or more medal. 5 got their medal on their birthday, and there were 3 duo teams. Last week, we told you about 83-year-old Chilean runner Ivan Moreno. Ivan previously competed at the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo, so it was a wonderful full circle moment for him to complete his 6-star journey in the same city, crossing the very respectable time in 5 hours, 40 minutes, and 25 seconds. Duo teams, wheelchair and pusher in Tokyo, represented a small piece of history. In this year's race, they were trialing in the inclusion of duo teams, so it meant for a small group that the chance to complete their 6-star journey became a reality. There were 3 duo teams, so 6 athletes, but only 5 were getting a medal. One of the teams, Troy Pruitt, earned his 6-star medal, and he was pushed by Kelly Richards. But Tokyo was star number 5 for her, so we'll need to find out what was missing from her to get her last star.
Now you're going to like this next bit, Dina. We haven't done it before, but speaking of stars, right? If you were standing around the finish line, and to be honest, I know you're a bit of a fan, so I'm surprised that you weren't. If you were standing around the finish line around 3 hours, 24 minutes, after the start of the race, you might have spotted a very familiar face for you because of the poster on your bedroom wall crossing the finishing line. Harry Styles, the Harold Edward Styles of the pop band One Direction, participated in Sunday's Tokyo Marathon. Now, remarkable fact about his time is that his first half was 1:42.03. His second half was 1:42.04. I mean, that's almost perfect.
Such an impressive time. I was really impressed to see how he did it. Like he must have just trained really well for this to have such an even paced race, especially in the conditions, the heat that so many of the runners complained about that day.
Very close to a negative split. Anyway, Dina, right. Remember the time. 3:24.07, right? And I thought we'd play a little game. I've got 5 celebrity marathon times. All you have to do is guess whether they were faster or slower than Harry Styles' 3:24.07. Ready?
Ready. Ready or not? Ask away.
Faster or slower? Gordon Ramsay.
Ooh, slower.
Gordon Ramsay was slower. He ran 3:30 at the 2004 London Marathon.
Oh, that's still a respectable time.
Yeah, he's a good runner, Gordon Ramsay. Next up, the Breaking Bad actor, Bryan Cranston. Faster or slower than Harry Styles?
Faster.
He was faster, Dina. He ran 3:20.45 way back at the 1985 New York City Marathon. Wow. Next up, it's British model Nell McAndrew. Faster or slower than 3:24.07?
Nell would be faster.
She was faster indeed. She ran 2:54, sub 3, 2:54 at the 2012 London Marathon. She wasn't faster than Harry Styles. She absolutely rinsed him, smoked him. Yeah. Okay, what about the next one? We've got 2 left, just 2 left, Dina. This is your penultimate one, and it's a hitter. Oprah Winfrey, talk show host, faster or slower than Harry Styles?
Oh, I actually know she was slower because of her. Didn't she just break 4 hours and 30 minutes at the Marine Corps Marathon?
You know your stuff. She was slower.
She's the only one I really know with confidence.
Yeah, she was slower than Harry Styles. You're right, she ran 4:29.15 in 1994 on the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington. And final one for you. It's a big one. Was George W. Bush, the former US president, faster or slower than Harry Styles?
Slower.
He was slower, but not by much. 3:44.52 when George W. Bush ran the 1993 Houston Marathon.
He ran that fast?
There you go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I feel like even though I did well, I I don't think I would have predicted how fast some of those, like Nell, I would never predicted she broke 3 hours.
Speedy celebrities right there. You've got to be pretty fast to go faster than Harry Styles 3:24:07. Our guest on this episode of Marathon Talk is broadcaster, presenter, DJ, author and marathon runner Adele Roberts. She's fresh from the Tokyo Marathon as a part of her 6-star journey. She's the author of the book Personal Best from Rock Bottom to the Top of the World, former BBC Radio 1 Extra presenter. She's also appeared on lots of telly, ITV's Dancing on Ice, The Great British Bake Off, E4's Celebrity Coach Trip, ITV's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. She was diagnosed with bowel cancer in October 2021. She now lives with her best mate, Audrey. We'll find out more about Audrey in a moment. She's an incredible advocate for living and recovering from cancer, for movement and for mental health. And running's been such a huge part of her life. Her recovery and her approach to life and resilience. In 2017 and in 2018, she ran the London Marathon, and in 2023, in her third marathon, her first one with the stoma, she set the Guinness World Record as the fastest female with an ileostomy in a mighty 3 hours, 30 minutes and 22 seconds. And then in 2024, she was awarded the Spirit of the London Marathon Award. And just a few weeks ago, in fact, a week ago, she ran Tokyo Marathon. Welcome to Marathon Talk, Adele.
Thank you, Martin.
I know, you've been busy. You've been so busy. I am going to go straight in. Tokyo. Just give me the lowdown.
Wow, what a country. What a welcome. What a beautiful country, a beautiful culture, an accessible country. From the moment that I landed, I noticed one of the first things I noticed, because it's usually the first thing I think about, is the accessibility in terms of the toilets. They have special ostomy toilets in a lot of places in Tokyo. And just the precision and the organisation and the cleanliness. I was like, I could live here. I could actually run away to here.
Brilliant. The first thing, isn't it amazing though? Like, what's the first thing that you notice? You know, and because of your experiences in the last, 3 or 4 years, the first thing you notice is the frequency of and availability and accessibility of the toilet.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk more about that. These are serious issues, and sometimes, more serious for you, and sometimes, of course, all marathon runners worry about where the loo's going to be. But, it's such an important part of getting ready, because it calms nerves and anxiety and helps you just know where things are at.
Yeah, totally. I am one of those people that always needed a nervy wee, but even more so now I have my stoma. And actually what had happened on the flight over, which happens quite a lot for people who fly with stomas, my bag had actually come off on the aeroplane. I'm used to that now, so I'd managed to change it on the aeroplane. But again, as soon as I land, I need to know where the first toilet is. And the fact that Japan not only had toilets accessible, but toilets with special signs on to say ostomy people are welcome here, it was game changing. It just felt so good, and I just hope that in the future we can have something like that here in the UK too.
Wow. So why do you want to do Tokyo? Like, you've done London 3 times. Why don't you just hang those trainers up?
Yeah, I decided to take on the challenge of attempting to run the 6 majors, because I had such a wonderful response after I was lucky enough to set the Guinness World Record in 2023 at the London Marathon. I just got a lot of people get in touch, whether they were living with cancer, they'd lost someone through cancer, or maybe they were living with a stoma, just saying that it meant a lot to them to see somebody talking about it and they didn't feel so alone. And I just thought, well, what a great opportunity to use my platform to be able to help others and also help myself just keep recovering from cancer.
And going to Tokyo, realizing it's actually pretty accessible, but then, last week on the show, we spoke to Russ Winard, and Russ is a COPD athlete, right? So he has a cardiopulmonary obstruction disorder, and not coronary. Sorry if you're listening, Russ. I don't want to scare you. And of course, for him, it's such a big part of the preparation and the participation, but also it hangs together so much of what it means for him to be a runner. Now, I know that the thread of Audrey is going to go through our conversation today. So just give us a little bit of background on that, so that listeners are aware. What is a stoma, and why do you have one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always say I'm not ashamed to have a stoma. I'm ashamed I didn't know what one was before I got it. When I was diagnosed with bowel cancer, because of how big the tumor was and where it was in my large colon, the doctor said to me, you know, we're going to be able to operate. That's all I needed to hear. I just wanted a chance to live. But he said, you might get a stoma. So it wasn't until I woke up that I had one. And then I had to get to learn very quickly what one was and how to change its bag. It was an it at the time. She's now called Audrey. So it's a little bit of my small intestine that pops out the front of my body to help me go to the toilet. So any waste from my body goes out the front of my body now and into a bag. And because it's at the small intestine, my output is quite liquid. So there's different types of stoma. So you can have them further along the colon, but mine pretty much is after my stomach. So that makes it a bit tricky when doing marathons because you eat and drink a lot and a lot of my output's liquid. So it's almost like I'm carrying a lot of liquid around with me in my shorts. Yeah. So I have to be careful what I eat and drink. But one of the nurses said to me, a good way to bond with your stoma, because a lot's just happened. You know, you've just had cancer, you've just had surgery, you've just got this little weird thing poking out the front of you that moves on its own. A lot of people name their stoma to help them bond with it. And so I decided to go for the name Audrey.
I remember when really good friends of mine, their son, required a similar operation and had an external stoma bag fitted. And you know, I've listened to a previous interview with you talking about the sugar trick. And of course...
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I've been there when that's... When that's been a thing. and so I kind of smiled to myself as you were talking about it because, you know, it's a very real... One of the things that people who have, you know, been through these kinds of experiences in their life is, you know, they then learn to live with, right, and accept the challenges and the future challenges. And I've actually heard you talk about having gratitude for that experience. You know, they learn to live and accept that. So what's the risks for you when running marathons and how do you manage them?
Yeah. What I've learned through doing the 6-star challenge is the flight, first of all, is a big risk. It's hard to fly with a stoma or be on a flight because of the air pressure in the cabin. So it always affects my stoma bag. It always blows up like a whoopee cushion.
Yeah, please don't tell me it's going to go off. Like in the cabin.
It doesn't go off, but people are like, is that stoma bag or are you just happy to see me? So yeah, it can get quite big. It can get quite bulbous. And sometimes that means then that the bag comes off because the glue that sticks it to the front of your body to help it stay in place gets a bit vulnerable. So I always have to keep a check on my stoma bag when I'm flying. And then, as you mentioned with the sugar trick, the reason I had to put sugar on my stoma is because it prolapsed. So this happened to me after the Berlin Marathon. I flew back the same night that I'd finished the marathon and it was just a bit too vulnerable for my stomach cavity. So because I've only had my stoma for about 2 or 3 years, my body is still sort of like repairing itself.
Yes.
And unfortunately, my stoma came very much out my body. So it's usually about 2 or 3 inches, but it ended up like halfway down my thigh and it was massive. And it sounds weird, but one of the things you can do to help it get back inside your body is put sugar on it. So I tried that trick. It wasn't working. So I had to go to the hospital and they said, we either have to operate or we have to, I can't remember what they said, but they said something like, oh, we have to do the medieval version and try and shove it back into your body with force and sugar so that you don't have to have an operation. So I nearly had to have an operation. And if I did, I wouldn't have been able to do Chicago because that was 2 weeks later. So I was like, give me morphine and just shove it back in. And luckily they got it back in.
Right.
So first of all, flying is a problem. And then secondly, as I said before, you know how important fueling yourself properly is for a marathon. So carb loading, a lot of the time I can't digest fiber. Yeah. So that's another risk of my bag coming off because when I eat things like porridge and rice, it all ends up in my bag and that can make it very heavy. And then eating and drinking on the course, I've kind of got to balance that. It's almost like spinning plates while I'm running. I've always got to monitor how big my bag is, how much I've eaten, how much I've drunk and how fast I'm running. So it's kind of like I'm constantly like working things out in my head to make sure that I can make it to the end of the race.
So just to come back to one thing you said earlier, it sounds to me there's nothing lucky about running a Guinness World Record. That you said I was lucky enough. That's not luck. Like that takes, that's taken you incredible kind of physical preparation and readiness, but also, the mental tenacity to say, and this is a constant theme, I think, with you, Adele, the mental tenacity and strength and resilience to face those challenges and say, actually, I can still do these things. Not only can I still do them, I can do them really, really well. Where does that come from?
Thank you, Martin. That means a lot to hear you say that. You were one of the first people that helped me mentally when I entered my first ever marathon. When I was super nervous, I didn't have a stoma. And I remember sitting and watching a Facebook session with you, and you really helped me mentally. You helped me sort of like rationalize it and help me realize that, yes, it's great to finish a marathon, but some of the joy and some of what you learn from a marathon and how you transform yourself is in the training and in the taking part of the marathon. The medal's just the cherry on the cake. And I think a lot of my mindset comes from my mum and dad. They've both had really tough lives. I think they've both been through much tougher things than me. But the one thing they never did was give up. No matter what happened to them in life, they always kept going. And I think that's my mantra for the marathon. Take it step by step, but if you don't give up, you can't be stopped.
Yeah, I mean, and marathon runners will, listening will, I'm sure, be reassured, and they'll know, I know that resonates so much, because of course you can't stop. You have to keep going. So, of the majors that you have done, which has presented you with the most challenging moments? Because your time, actually, you're very consistent, right? Even pre-post. So, you're running kind of 3.5 hours in London before, before Stone, and you're running about the same time after. So tell me about the most challenging moments and in which marathon it took place.
Yeah, I think it must have been the Chicago one, because I'd had the prolapse after Berlin and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to run it. And it was only a week before that they managed to get my stoma back in. And then I knew I'd have to get on another flight. That was the one where I was most scared. I didn't do any running in between those, in that 2-week gap. And I was just praying that my body would have recovered enough for me to make it around 26.2 miles with the nerves, because nerves and excitement affect a stoma as well. Like gut reaction is real and it makes it temperamental. So I that was a massive day of being patient with myself and just taking it literally step by step.
So what's left? Have you still got one to do, Boston, or have you done Boston?
Yeah, so I still have Boston left, but for this current, I'm trying to set a new Guinness World Record as the fastest woman with an ileostomy to do all 6. So I still have Boston for my 6-star challenge,
yes,
and then London for the actual Guinness World Record. So I'll be doing the Boston-London double again with flights and trying to keep my stoma in check.
That's Boston-London this year?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's amazing. That's just up the ante, hasn't it? So then, of course, you're thinking recovery from Tokyo into Boston, doing Boston, recovery from Boston, travel back to London, and then have an amazing day in London. So what's the plan between kind of now Boston and London? What's running looking like?
Well, I was thinking of asking you, to be honest, Martin. I have no idea. I'm so clueless. And when I took on this challenge, I didn't realise how hard it was going to be. I know that sounds silly, but my focus was raising awareness and giving myself purpose. And then when I looked at the fact that I'd been doing 6 marathons in 8 months, because I started in Berlin last year and I've done them one after the other, I was like, you're really stupid, Adele. That's really hard. You've not given yourself time to recover. But again, the joy has been in learning about my body, respecting the marathon more and more every single time I do it. And more than anything, and I know you know this, Martin, you said this right from the start, the community of runners and the people that you meet. And that's what it's about. And the people I get to talk to, and seeing people of all different ages, sizes, races on that course with you. Every time I'm in those races, I'm getting goosebumps now. I'm just so inspired, and it reminds me that I'm part of something much bigger.
Yeah, and one of the things I so love about the marathons, and particularly the majors, is that a marathon is such a great leveler, because it really doesn't, and I mean this in a genuine way, He really doesn't care about what you've gone through to get there, right? So
Absolutely.
it's the same. It's the same for everyone. And so there's so many diverse and different people with huge sets of personal situations and circumstances and challenges that are all landing with a single focused same goal. And the same goal doesn't care, right? It's not going to give you sympathy. You know, those streets at mile 20 aren't going to come up and give you a big cuddle and go, oh, Adele, is the bag filling, right? It's getting heavier. Like that just doesn't happen, does it? And so marathon running is brilliant like that because it levels the field for everyone. And I think that means that when people toe the line, they know what to expect. They know it's not going to take any prisoners, and they have to capitalize on their innermost strength, but also the opportunity for the outermost strength that exists on every event.
Yeah. And whenever I see people with that medal at the end, I know what they've been through to get that on that day. You know, it was so hot in Tokyo at the weekend, and just the people that were finishing, it made me I was just as happy for them as I was for myself. So yeah, like you say, it's a great leveler.
And were there implications for you? So, you know, you briefly touched on hydration, and particularly, you know, the amount of absorption, right? So, of course, the messages around hydration might be, you know, you do need to perhaps start the event optimally hydrated, maybe a little more than you might normally be. And then, you know, we'll see quite high levels of consumption, but people shouldn't be overhydrating on the course. Does that, you know, how do you reassure yourself when you think, oh, actually, I could run a line here because I know because of the heat I need to drink more, but at the same time I know that I need to monitor really carefully the amounts that I drink?
Yeah, I've learned to be very sensible, and I always build into my time doing the marathon toilet stops and hydration stops, and I try and stop at most of the hydration sections and have a little bit of water and a little bit of whatever energy drink they're giving out. So Pocari Sweat, which is a beautiful name, the one that they have in Tokyo, I made sure that I had a little sip of that each time. And so I allow myself to sort of like slow down as well. So my time's always like multiple toilet and hydration stops.
I mean, you've just kind of annoyed me really, because you've run 3:30 like with you've run
with stops.
3:30 with planned stops. I mean, who does that? So in London, does this mean you have a plan to enjoy the experience of London? So, you know, there's many things that connect you to London, right? But also, first marathon, I'm sure this won't be your final one. Is it an opportunity to test what you can do a little bit, or are you going to float around and high-five the crowd?
Well, I hope, because I want to be sensible and I want to try and do both Boston and London. I think Boston, I'll just try and stay strong because I know it's a very hilly and challenging course, and be sensible. Yes. And then in London, I just want to celebrate life. I think, to me, even though all of the majors have been special in their own way, London is the best of all of them. And I don't think there's anywhere in the world like London. It's just the most special place to me, and I really want to be present and take it in. It's almost going to be like a treat for me, even though my body will be sore and it'll be tired and it'll be hurting. My mind is just going to be so alive. And that is the spirit of London. That's why I was so honoured to get that award alongside Tom, who got it that year alongside me. Tom is somebody that had sadly had a big crash. He'd spent time in hospital, and yet he'd still gone out and run the marathon. And it's people like Tom that power me on. And another thing I love about London is the amount of charity runners that they have, and the amount of people running with people, like their reasons written on their backs, and running for people that they've lost. And that always reminds me how lucky I am. And so I think London's almost going to be the biggest treat ever.
Have you got a favourite bit on the course? I mean, you know, you've done it a few times. So there's got to be bits where you go, for those that maybe haven't done it, like why? I love the Cutty Sark, because I think that's the first time that you hear lots of people all together, the crowds, the roar. You hear the roar before you see that big, amazing ship emerge.
above the buildings, and it's just the most incredible sight and the most incredible feeling. Then you've got to try and calm down till you get to Tower Bridge, and Tower Bridge is always amazing. And then I always try and enjoy that, because I know when I go into the Isle of Dogs, Martin, the wheels are going to fall off. I suffer there all the time. I've never cracked that bit of the course. Never. And then I just pray to get back to Tower Bridge so that I enjoy it again. But yeah, Isle of Dogs for some reason just kills me off every time.
So what would it take, do you think, for you to glide with a new sense of ownership of the Isle of Dogs? So if you were to break that section down and go, okay, there's a little reticence about that section. What is it we need to do that brings you into the Isle of Dogs and takes you out the other side, like where you're thinking, you know what, I'm carrying the strength here to lead me down onto the highway and out along the embankment. So what's the...
Can you get rid of the hills? Because there's a little I remember there's like a hilly bit, and also like maybe actual, and maybe actual, like, it's windy, switch off the wind. So take away the hills, switch off the wind, and maybe actual therapy dogs in there. Like, it's false advertising. There's no dogs.
Well, there's a chance I could arrange the dog thing. But the other two things I've got no real control of. But that is one of the things about marathon running, is there will be moments in people's marathons where you might dread it and you think, oh, this is the bit, and actually that is a real chance for you to save the strategies and deploy them at the right time. So putting into practice strategies of remembering somebody, strategies of reminding yourself why you're doing it, strategies of affirmation of, I've been here many times, this is a step towards the next place I need to go. And you set up in that section of the marathon the next bit. So you've got all the tools in the toolkit to do it. I think maybe one thing, what would your top piece of advice be to somebody who's gone through a similar process that you have, and then they've decided, what, I think I can do a marathon. I think I can do it. And they've got themselves this challenge, but they're riddled with uncertainty and doubt. What's your key piece of advice for them?
I think be kind to yourself and allow yourself to fail. I that is one thing I'm good at, failing. I fail all the time so that I can learn from it and then get better. And I think I don't believe in losses really in life. I just believe in wins and lessons. And when things go wrong, that's when you grow the most. It's almost like, when you finished a marathon, your legs are hurting. It's because there's growth there. Yeah. And so don't fear failure. Yeah. Fail fast and fail forward. And that is my mantra. And I fail all the time, Martin. So the medals represent a lot of failures to me rather than a lot of success. They're nice, but they remind me of what I've been through.
Yeah. And it also, of course, process and journey that's what gives you that amazing sense of gratitude and achievement. And, I mentioned briefly at the beginning, and I've listened to you before in interviews where you've said, going through the experience of cancer has given me so much gratitude. Yeah. And actually, don't you just learn to really value and appreciate everything that running gives you and everything that life gives you, when doing a marathon, and also having done it against the backdrop of your cancer experience?
Yeah, that is so true. In Tokyo, I remember hurting. I remember it being really hard. And I remember thinking, I just want to slow down. I don't want to be going this fast. And I always say to myself now, this is a privilege to be experiencing this, Adele. You very nearly didn't wake up from your surgery. You didn't. It wasn't a guarantee that they were going to be able to help you. So anything, when I'm annoyed, when things annoy me in life, I just think it's a privilege. Remember, this is a privilege. And when I think about it like that, I just have a little word with myself and carry on.
Have a word. And so, have a word. So when you finished the 5K friendship run in Tokyo with Kate, did she turn to you and say, that was such a privilege?
She didn't. She's not there yet. No, she didn't. But she was so proud of herself because she didn't know she could do it. And I think that's the thing. It's like, yeah, don't worry about failure, and also just don't give up. If you don't give up, you can't be stopped. If you just keep taking those steps, you get there in the end, and every step takes you closer to the finish line.
I love it. If you don't give up, you can't be stopped. Brilliant. Adele, we could speak forever, I'm sure, but it's been wonderful to catch up with you. Really good luck with your Boston into London. Please make sure you rest and travel in between, travel calmly in between those two races. All the training will be done by the time you hit Boston. It's all about recovery, and I'm super excited to see how you get on.
Thank you, Martin. And I'm going to think of you in the Isle of Dogs. You will get me through.
Last week, we asked our listeners on social media who ran in Tokyo to let us know how they got on and their race highlights. We received many responses, and it was great to hear from so many of you. Shout out to Reese Haynes on Instagram, coming home in 2:47.41 to finally achieve his Boston qualifying time. So well done to him. He's aiming to complete his 6-star journey before he turns 30 in 2 years.
Wow. Antonella Scutiero from Italy got her 6-star medal when she ran Tokyo in 4 hours 15:12. Her favourite part of the course was the Akihabara district, the famous video arcade area, and the final K.
Former guest on the show, Ron Romano, said the highlight was seeing Nicole at the 6-star tent and getting his 4th straight 6-star medal. He finished in a time of 3:29.35. Congratulations, Ron.
Yeah, and Brenny on Instagram ran 3:56.09, saying her highlight was the switchbacks that allowed her to see the elite run by.
Vicky said she got her 6-star after 9 years of work, and on the 30th anniversary since living in Japan studying at the university, she came home in 3:47, her slowest time in 9 years, but so happy to get it done.
Lynn Diodati posted on Instagram, it was such a well-organised race. She loved the volunteers, finished with a time of 4:29.05.
Braden Haslett ran a very impressive 3:13.53 and said the first half was fantastic. Running on the streets with thousands of others was special. His first major, and the people, both supporters and the crowds, in that setting helped him massively push through when it got hot.
And finally, Stevie T runs on Instagram, finished with a time of 3:02.58. He said, seeing the park run crowd at 37k, whilst his body was screaming to stop, gave him the lift he needed to get to the finish line. Well done, all you Tokyoers. This past weekend, if you are running a race this month, maybe in Rome or Barcelona or Saint-Tropez or the Nagoya Women's Marathon, why not tag us in your social media post at Marathon Talk? And maybe we'll give you a shout out on our next show. Right, that is it for another episode of Marathon Talk. We hope you enjoyed this show. If it was the first time you listened, if you can hit the subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from, that would be great. And we'd never say no to a 5-star review. I'm told it helps the podcast be discovered by new listeners.
Remember our social media channels and follow us to stay up to date on everything that's going on with the show. Search Marathon Talk on Instagram and Facebook, and you can also join our Strava Club by searching Marathon Talk in the clubs section, where we'll be sharing more content, maybe some challenges, and much, much more over the coming weeks.
Right, thanks for listening. I've been Martin. This has been Dina.
Bye.
And we'll be back again for another edition of Marathon Talk in 2 weeks. Enjoy the run, wherever it takes you.